Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first official episode of 2022 in this brand new series of Paranormal Living, presented by me, your host, Jared Warne. Just before we do get into today's episode, I would like to wish you all a very happy new year and all the best for 2022. And of course, thank you for all your support and listens over the course of the last coming up now to 2 years. What an amazing roller coaster journey it's been. It's been crazy. But the listens from all around the world has been absolutely amazing. So again, thank you to each and every one of you for getting involved with Paranormal Living. So in today's episode, there's a few things I want to talk about. Obviously, we're going to give you a bit of a rundown to what we have planned over the course of 2022. Some really, really exciting things we're going to talk about, and which I can't wait to be able to do. And obviously, you guys to be involved with us. And of course, our main topic over the course of this episode will be about tarot cards. I use tarot cards myself, and I wanted to give you a bit of an insight into how I got started with it. And I want you guys also, again, to get involved with us. Send us a message at paranormallivingpodcast@gmail.com. You know, that's one of the things I absolutely love about what we do when we do the vodcast on Facebook. And of course, doing this is people getting involved, people sending you messages in and your personal experiences, and then we can read them out on the show. It's absolutely fantastic. So please do get in contact with us. And as I always say, if you would like to come on the show as well to share your stories, your experiences, just send us a message. Again, paranormallivingpodcast@gmail.com. And the link to all our socials, Facebook, Paranormal Living, is in the description below, so you can get us on there as well. So what do we have planned for 2022? Well, I can tell you it's going to be exciting, as I mentioned. We are going to be doing more live investigations, which have been very successful if you've been on the Facebook page and seen what we've been doing. Various locations, including returning to one of the creepiest places we did, which was the random one, which was at Lytham St. Anne's. You know, over the course of last year, we went to different places and had some amazing experiences and got some amazing evidence as well, which is one of the reasons we do it for, is to get evidence of life after death. Spirit world is around us and life does carry on around us. So we are going back into that. But once a month we do have these specials we will be doing. So we'll be going to more infamous locations. The first one is on February the 26th, which is at the Regent Cinema in Blackpool. We are putting this event on ourselves, but we will be doing a few streams from there as well. So I'll be running it, as well as Denise, our resident medium with Paranormal Living. She'll be joining us, as well as Mark and Carrie from Paranormal Technology as well. We'll be coming over from Ireland with the equipment. So we're going to have a fantastic night. It's going to be awesome. There's a lot of weird things have happened at the Regent Cinema, so that's what I'm excited to find out and see, obviously, what we do find out and who is there and what energy is around us there. And then we will be going then to 30 East Drive. This is a place I've never been. I've always wanted to go. It's one of them, it's on a pedestal, and everybody knows about 30 East Drive. Some people have had some amazing experiences there. Some people have gone and not much has happened. So I'm interested myself to find out, obviously, who is there or what is haunting there. And obviously, if anything will happen to my group in regards to that. And obviously, that will be live streamed, as well as returning to the ancient Ramin as well. Because even though we went last year, I always felt like it's definitely worth going back, because we were getting bits. We didn't really get a lot, but I saw some people understand that there's just, you feel like there's something more to find out. So that's the way I feel about it. So I'm excited to be able to go back there this year, and Mark and Carrie from Paranormal Technology will be joining us, as well as a few other people we will have. Because that's another thing we're doing this year, is having more guests with us. Obviously, we'll have the main group, but we will be inviting certain people and different people onto investigations with Paranormal Living. So that's another thing what's really exciting, and quite a few people have mentioned that as what they want to see. Another thing we do have planned over the course of 2022, a few of you may have seen this in the past, we've done a few experimental evenings over the course of last year, including Bob's House, and then the last one we did was back in October for Halloween week, where we did a table tipping session, which was, I've spoke about it on the podcast, but it was absolutely phenomenal. My granddad come through, and the evidence we got, and even people who was watching on the live stream, were getting messages, and the answers were coming through the table. It was a phenomenal experience, and obviously everyone who else were watching it Really enjoyed it. So we are going to be doing that again, and once a month, again, different things and different experimental evenings over the course of this year. So another thing to look forward to. But if you haven't seen the table tipping session, if you go to our YouTube channel, Paranormal Living TV, it is on there, the full session from start to finish. And yeah, it's again just a phenomenal evening. So very grateful for the spirit world to come through and obviously help us on that one. So there we do have some of the exciting things we do have planned for the course of this series. And this year, it's honestly, guys, I can't wait to get started, in the next couple of weeks, where we start doing the investigations again and moving on with some of the interviews. And, like I said, we did put a post out on our Facebook page, did a live, and asked what people would like to see more of. And that was one of the things, the investigations, more live interviews. So, we're putting all that together and building again. Every year it's about building on what we did last year and making it better and just trying to improve all the time. And obviously listening to you, our listeners. So it is now time to get into the actual episode. And the main topic of today, which is what I wanted to talk about, which was tarot cards. So just a bit of history in regards to the cards. They were originally founded as a game. So just like using a card game. So you had different decks from different parts of Europe. So there was like a German deck, Italian deck, French deck, and like a British deck. So they're all very similar. But it wasn't until 1789 where the first issue of the tarot deck was designed specifically for readings, fortune telling. So in a 78 card deck, you have the Major Arcana, which is classed as Greater Secrets or Trump cards. That consists of 22 cards without suits. So the Major Arcana consists of like the Magician, High Priestess, the World, the Fool, Lovers, Chariots. So just a few suits there to give you an idea, but they are normally have Roman numerals above them. Apart from the Fool card, which is the only unnumbered card. Then you have the Man Arcana card, which consists of 56 cards divided into 4 suits of 14. So that they sort of consist of kings, queens, the swords, coins, cups, so things like that, which is classed as a minor arcana. For me, I still find it a bit confusing. I'm still trying to get used to major arcana, minor arcana, because when I originally started working with cards, didn't even think about anything in regards to that. But in regards to Denise's class, that's what we do. We're splitting the cards up and things. So it's taken me a while to get used to it, and still getting used to it, and still learning. But that's just a bit of a brief insight into the cards. So I've been working with tarot cards now a couple of years, about 4 years. I think it's 4 years this year, roughly, working with cards, and it's been a hard process. It's been a big learning curve, and again, it's one of them things you never stop learning, because even if you pull the same card out twice, it could mean something different. Just because it looks the same, it could be taken in a different context. And I had a very strange experience happen to me. So this is what's going to lead on to the topic. So as many of you know, my granddad, who was a medium, Jared Warne, spoke about him obviously quite a lot over the episodes since we started the podcast, and told you about his story, which was the last podcast we released. And when I started going to development class, my mum gave me his tarot cards and some of the equipment he had, including things like his diary, but it was to work with. And one of the weirdest things is, so my granddad's tarot cards, they're very old. I'd say they must be 50-year-old. So the old school tarots, like a lot of the cards these days are very modern. They have modern pictures on, full of colours. As these are, as you can imagine, a playing card. That kind of tarot card. And at one point, I never knew how to read these. I didn't have a clue. Sometimes when you see the money card, for example, you gather it's money coming in or spending money, however you want to take it, or however the reading is working. And it took me quite a while to get used to these cards, and it wasn't until being with Denise, even though they were completely different to her cards, she was just giving me the idea of how to work with them. So I went away and started practicing with them, and it's been now 2 years where I now have the hang of working with these cards. But what happened was, just before Christmas, we did the last class breakup, obviously for the start of this month, and Denise gave us all an envelope with a filming. So you have to use your tarot cards to sort of read the main character out of this film. So it's a good little exercise and technique to work with these cards. So I took my granddad's cards out. So I mixed them with using Archangel Power Tarot cards, which are by Radley Valentine. So a few of you may have known these cards. These were the first cards I ever bought, actually. And I found these easier to work with right at the beginning. Because then I started mixing them in with my granddad's cards to make it easier to read. But they're fantastic cards and very beautiful cards as well. Got some amazing imagery. And so we're doing over the course of this exercise, and my film turned out to be The Wizard of Oz. And it was quite cool how the story sets out coming through these cards. But I was using, as I mentioned, my granddad's tarot cards at this point, as well as mixing in these power tarot cards. And finished the class, did the get out of it, said bye to everyone, break up for Christmas, put everything away in my bag, and then got to my car. And then it wasn't until a week later, I picked up my bag, and the weirdest thing happened. I said it was like a magic trick. Was I picked up my bag and the cards exploded out of my bag. I don't know how this happens, because the bag I've got where the cards are, it's got like two clasps which you clip together, and the cover of the bag goes over it, so everything's inside the bag. So it's physically impossible for these cards to come out of the bag, fall out of the bag, never mind physically explode out of the bag. It was like when a magician and he starts making the cards fly. This is exactly what it was like. It was very weird. And then obviously I said an explicit word, and then my wife come in and helped me pick up the cards. And I noticed I had some cards missing. So I thought I must have put them down somewhere. Then I'm looking around everywhere, as you can imagine. I'm like, this card's missing. I don't know how I've lost them. So I went to my car just to have a look, and had a look around this room where the bag's been, and the bag stays. Couldn't find them anywhere. So obviously then I messaged Denise and messaged Heather, who has the hairdressers where we go for our class, just saying, I think I've left my cards there, where I was sat. And then she couldn't find them anywhere. So I'm like, where could they have gone? And then, even going back, because this place is about 40 minutes from where I live, and going back, retracing my steps, even my mum coming out of her house and driving 20 minutes down the road to where I was parked. She searched around asking people. I even put a post out on Facebook asking people if they'd seen these particular cards, because obviously if they were my own cards I bought, I wouldn't be that fussed, but because, like I said, they were my granddad's, they mean a lot to me, and they are irreplaceable, and couldn't find them anywhere. So I just thought, looks like I'll never get them back. So I said a prayer. I'm asking my granddad, and prayed to St. Jude, who's for lost causes, and just nothing. And it wasn't until 3 days ago where I was on the phone to my mum, and I literally just got to Asda. I was on the phone to my mum. I opened the door as my little girl's coming out, and the cards were in the side door of the car. And I'm like, you never guess what I've just found. I found the cards. She's like, where are they? I said, they're in the side of the door. But what I don't understand is how they've ended up there, because when I got into my car, I always put the bag in the passenger seat next to me, because I'm always frightened. Obviously the bag falling over, or obviously there's a lot of precious stuff in there, including, like I say, my granddad's cards. And I said I never put the bag on the back seat, and they were all perfectly stacked in the side door. And then obviously when I got home, I put them in with my granddad's cards, and finally got the whole pack together again. Very weird thing. I can't explain it, because no one even sits behind me in my car, because it's normally just my wife and my daughter who sits behind the passenger seat. So for them to be behind the driver's side in the passenger door, absolutely, I can't explain it. Very weird. And never mind picking the bag up and the bag exploding everywhere, with just my granddad's cards falling out. So obviously so grateful to get them back. And I don't know what you guys think. You guys get in touch with me and let me know if you have any thoughts on about the exploding cards, or obviously being brought back, because that's one thing I just kept saying, like, just bring the cards back out, and made me realise probably take more care, to be honest. I think it's more of a learning curve. They do say spirit works in mysterious ways, and bringing things back for you, and that was definitely an amazing experience. And again, I'll forever be grateful for them coming back to me. But in regards to working with tarot cards, this is what I want to know. So, have you worked with cards yourself? Have you had readings with people who work with tarot cards? What are your thoughts on cards? Because I know there was one gentleman who is a clairvoyant himself, but he doesn't like tarot cards. He doesn't work with them. Again, they're used as a tool, but I've felt, they've helped me a lot with my development. One of the things I was taught was about not reading necessarily. I'm just getting the cards out as we talk. Not necessarily reading what's on the card. So, for example, the first card I've just pulled out at random is Justice, and it's got this picture of this gentleman with wings on, wearing this dark blue robe, which is like a healing colour, which what it means to me, with the scales. So obviously one's lower than the other with the weights. But looking at this card, obviously, then it says, fight for justice and equality. Rulings made in your favour, don't give up. So with my gut feeling on this, depending obviously how the reading's going and what cards have come before it, and maybe working spiritually with the spirit world coming through, the natural thing you're going to think of as a justice card is probably a court case or coming out of something and being on top. But I also, if I was reading this because of the dark blue, as I mentioned, this is my personal thoughts on this, would be that healing colour. And sometimes it's not even about justice, it's about weighing things. And so the good outweigh the bad. That's what it could mean, like you said, depending on the story. But if you're looking at this picture, what I do have in front of me, the sky in the background, it's like the sun's rising. So, things are becoming brighter, you start to see things a bit more clearer. And also there is, what I've just noticed, in the background, what looks like a higher power. So that is, for me, someone coming in, helping you and guiding you along what may be a tough time or coming out of a sticky situation. As I mentioned, the good outweighing the bad and things coming to fruition and coming out of maybe that time. But the thing I always found interesting is you could get the same card in every single reading, but it could mean something different in every single reading. Again, it's how the story unfolds for who you're reading for and talking to. That's what I found fascinating. And I will tell you, one of the best readings I ever had in regards to working with cards was by Denise. So this is just before I got to know her properly. So she knew, obviously, who my granddad was and that I was a singer. When she started the reading, she worked with a lot of cards. Like, I just used 2 packs, but she uses a lot of cards. She's pulling these cards out of everywhere. But the reading was just awesome. She said my whole life, it was like reading a book, going through these cards, from the past to the now and then obviously going to the future. But when she was talking about my past and, some of my family members and all this stuff, what was coming out and about my marriage and my little girl and stuff, honestly, it was just phenomenal. I'm like, just by reading these cards and, to some people, they might just look at that, it's just a picture. But with her working, it's more than that. It's reading what's in the image and how it sort of all transpires through the course of working with the cards. And yeah, like I say, it was like reading a book. I was pretty like, wow. All that from just these, however many cards it was quite a lot. And, it's always interested me from that moment as well of getting to work with the cards and doing readings with cards. And that's how, in that reading, she mentioned about my granddad's cards and saying about, how to read them and work with them, which obviously I'm very grateful for because I now get to work with them and hopefully don't lose them again. One of the best pieces of advice I was actually given was when looking for cards was not just to buy the first card you think of. So when I started doing classes, it was more like, you just need a packet of tarot cards. And this is just before my mum passed my granddad ones to me. And I just went in a shop and said, I'll just take them. Rather than thinking about it, I just picked up, and I don't really use them cards. I wasn't really sort of working well with them, I'd say. And then I was told a bit of advice from Denise, funnily enough, And she said about maybe going online or going into a shop. Don't just pick up the first pack you see. Have a look, what takes your fancy, what catches your eye. And I use that, and it definitely set me in good stead, because that's when I picked up these ones I was talking about, the Archangel Power cards. And I do believe that that's helped me develop more, rather than just picking up a random pack of cards. Picking up a cards what I feel drawn to. And it's definitely a piece of advice I'd tell anyone. Don't rush into buying things. Just have a look round, and like you say, what catches your eye, what you feel drawn to. They're the cards for you. And there's a few other people I know use that when buying cards, and it's worked for them as well, and they've worked really well with the cards. So that was a bit of a look at the topic today. Obviously not the biggest, I guess, in-depth look, but I do have plans to sort of revisit this topic over the course of this series, when we're interviewing different mediums and getting them to come on and talk about readings. As I mentioned, there's some people who don't even use cards, don't feel the need to use them as a tool. And then there's obviously certain readers who just use and just read from cards. And then you have also readings, as I mentioned, using both spiritually and using the cards. And that's sort of what I want to uncover over the course of this series of different people working, how they see things, how they experience things from readings, and obviously working with cards and different tools as well. Everything from psychometry. So we will be looking at that over the course of this series. So finally, guys, again, I just want to say a happy new year to each and every one of you. I wish you all the very best for 2022. I do hope you've enjoyed this episode. It's great to finally be back and obviously do another series, another episode. And as I mentioned, I can't wait for 2022 and everything we do have planned. So stay safe, guys. I will see you on the next episode. Happy New Year. Love and light. Adios.